Kaido was a monstrosity. This man was a natural-born disaster. But I kinda gotta ask this, was he a disappointing villain? Kaido was an absolute villain within the entirety of the word, but to be honest, he was a villain that did actually have standards when you think about it. But my question is Kaido a trash villain? Did he actually disappoint in the Wano arc? My personal answer, definitely not. But before we dive even deeper, I'm gonna need y'all to hit that like button and I'm gonna need y'all to hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps the channel and it definitely keeps me motivated to make more videos. So let me give you guys a breakdown. So we're gonna look at setup, character, strength and durability. Strength and durability, I would keep them synonymous, better yet, in the same category. So looking at setup, I remember hearing about Kaido back in Punk Hazard. Law had extended an invitation to Luffy to basically make an alliance to go against one of the 4 emperors. It had already been established that Kid was going after Shanks, and well, we know what happened with that. Ben Beckman. This was one of the moments where I knew that Kaido was just completely dangerous. Law had said to Luffy that even if they team up and make an alliance, there's about a 30% chance that they can take down Kaido. Kaido's introduction into the story, where we see his physical appearance, was just colossal. This man is literally on one of the sky islands just looking down. And the thing is, it's a silhouette. And then this man just jumps down and crashes into the earth. At this point in time, he didn't even crash into the earth crashed into him. Thank you for almost 2.2K. We moving. Even the animators knew how monumental this moment was because the animation was actually crisp. This man was literally standing at however tall he is, over 300 pounds at 5% body fat. It's actually crazy. This man had Kid, Killer, Apu, and Hawkins sweating. And we know for a fact, based on how Wano turned out, Kaido is basically jump resistant. It would be a matchmaker in heaven to slide Kaido into Jujutsu Kaisen. This man's presence was so terrifying that Law makes Doflamingo immediately submit when Law talks about Doflamingo not being able to supply Kaido, his business partner, with any more smiles. In Kaido's introduction, Kid and Killer caught a fade off screen. Apu and Hawkins actually flipped. Scratch that, I'm pretty sure Apu was already working for him, which is what created the animosity between Kid and Apu. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kaido is a villain, and if we're talking about his character, Kaido is strong, but then he respects other people who are also strong, which is why he only labels certain people who are able to fight him. Big Mom, Roger, Whitebeard, and Odin, and others. Picking up from where I left off, he is a man of honor, which is why when he fought with Odin and the witch actually interrupted the fight, which led to Odin actually losing, he has the witch killed because despite winning the fight, he didn't like the way that he won. It's also illustrated when that CP0 agent actually interrupted his fight with Luffy, which is the reason why he lost, and I'm pretty sure Luffy had died in that moment. He killed the agent immediately. Kaido's belief in absolute strength is reinforcing the idea that he doesn't really bother killing his opponent. He would rather break that person's will by completely overpowering them and making them submit to him, which is probably the same reason why when him and Luffy had their first exchange, he didn't even bother killing Luffy because he didn't see him as a threat. He just threw him in jail to see if he could make him submit. I would call him a slightly more diluted version of Sukuna for any of you Jujutsu Kaisen fans. When you look at Kaido's crew, excluding King, Jack, and Queen, remember the Tobi Roppo are all previous captains of pirate crews. So we can assume, I'm not gonna go as far to say that they challenged Kaido, but clearly they submitted to him. Kaido being revealed as a dragon only just further adds to the powerful presence that he already creates in One Piece. I speculated a lot about what kind of devil fruit he'd have, and I mean, I at least thought it'd be like an ogre. I would say that a dragon genuinely represents like an end game villain or like some sort of final boss to kind of wrap up a lot of loose ends. So a dragon is probably the perfect fit for Kaido. I guess for me, it caught me by surprise. Kaido's strength and durability are literally off the charts and far from disappointing. He has advanced observation, advanced armament, advanced conqueror's haki. Basically the highest forms of haki in all three domains that we know of so far. An interesting fact about Kaido is that this man has never actually used armament haki to defend himself. We know everybody has. Queen, Big Mom, I don't think King has, but I mean, he uses swords to fight, but he has used armament haki on his swords. He's also an awakened mythical Zoan. Luffy needed several power-ups to be able to fight on even terms with Kaido. When you look at the timeline, right, we had only heard about Kaido back in Punk Hazard. Luffy reveals Gear 4th in Dressrosa. He revealed Snake Man in Whole Cake Island, but then if you remember, he actually got a power up with his observation haki by being able to slightly see into the future, just like Katakuri. And then once we got to Wano, Luffy had his first exchange with Kaido, where Luffy gave Kaido a island splitting punch to the gut, and this man just tanked the joint. Remember, Kaido was drunk during this exchange, and he literally one-shotted Luffy, and that was done. Remember, this is how powerful Kaido was. Oda does not do training arcs. Whenever Luffy has gotten stronger, it's always that he's gotten stronger within an exchange with a foe. When Luffy was incarcerated, Luffy was actually training with the Sea Stone cuffs. Remember, he was training how to use Ryo. That's how powerful an opponent Kaido actually was. Even going down even further and whatnot, when Luffy and Kaido actually fight each other again, Luffy goes through several power-ups to the point where he learns how to use advanced conqueror's haki. That still wasn't enough because Luffy had to end up going through an awakening to be able to finally fight Kaido on even terms, and to the extent where he was finally able to put him down. From the start of the raid, once Kaido actually started fighting with the samurai, his fights never actually stopped. Remember, Luffy took a break and then came back. Kaido fought the samurai, Luffy, Zoro, Killer, Kid, and Law alongside Big Mom and whatnot. Zoro tried to take down Kaido with his best technique at the time, which was his Ashura technique infused with advanced conqueror's haki. Still never took him down. Luffy finally developed advanced conqueror's haki. Still never took him down. Luffy lost either 4 or 5 times. He lost multiple times before he finally put down Kaido. There is no disappointment coming from this man one bit. In the midst of Luffy taking a break, Yamato jumped in, so this man literally fought multiple opponents and did not take a break. Once Luffy had spun that block, he tagged out with Yamato to the point where they had an exchange just before Luffy turned Gear 5th, and then Kaido had to deal with Luffy Gear 5th, not even understanding what kind of abilities that Luffy actually had at this point, because at that point, I would say the entire audience knew that Luffy was a paramecia. But then at this point, Kaido wasn't even sure whether he was just a paramecia or a mythical Zoan. Now, when Luffy turned Gear 5th and whatnot, the fight wasn't overwhelmingly one-sided. Kaido handled his own very well to the point where it was fairly an even exchange. Now, in Luffy's defense, he wasn't entirely sure what his abilities actually were, so I would call that an experimental piece. Kaido was just a complete villain in this arc. To wrap up, Kaido was a phenomenal villain, and I definitely enjoyed every aspect he presented in the story and whatnot. And I know some people had some problems with the way he was written out in the sense of how he was defeated and whatnot, but I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, yeah, but honestly, I definitely enjoyed just the Wano arc as a collective, and I definitely thought he was just the most intimidating villain till date in the sense of just how powerful he was and the way he carried himself. He definitely weren't no sucker. But I mean, that's all for me. Let me know your comments in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all later, man. Peace.